everyone, and welcome to Kevin's Corner. Thank you for joining me. I am Kevin Horner of Galligan and Manning. Hopefully you all got to join us last week over July 4th. And you all had a good holiday with your friends and family. And this topic we're going to talk about today is actually in response to a question that came about from that topic, which I thought would be really good. And it's actually for the person who wants to start doing planning, what do they need to think about? What do they need to consider before going? What does the process look like? So this is the perfect time to have this conversation. Hopefully you watched last week and thought about how you could have the conversation with family members about thinking about long-term care planning, thinking about estate planning, and now you're thinking, okay, we're time to have that conversation. What do we do next? So first, I'm going to talk about four things you need to think about before starting the process, and then I'll talk briefly about the process. The process itself is going to vary a little bit. It depends on who you're meeting with and the attorneys, etc. So I'll kind of talk about our process, but the four items in the beginning are the things you should think about before you have a planning meeting. So here are the four topics. And this is true if it's an estate planning meeting, if it's a long-term care planning meeting, anything like that. There's essentially the four areas you want to be prepared to think about and talk about. One is your financial picture. And what I mean by that is both what the assets are that you own or what your spouse owns, and generally what they're worth. Not exact, just a ballpark is helpful, and really having an idea of what your assets are would be very helpful. You'd be surprised at the number of times I'll have a consultation and I'll ask, so what do you own? What kind of account is this? And I get the response of I don't know. It's good to review in advance. You don't have to come in with statements more often than not, although sometimes it's not a bad idea, but have an idea of what your accounts are: checking, savings, CDs, retirement, brokerage, life insurance, retirement, whatever. And then generally how it's titled, you, spouse, whomever. If there's beneficiaries attached to it, who those beneficiaries are, and then roughly the amounts that they're worth. And sometimes people don't want to share that with the attorney, but it's helpful in the initial planning meeting because it's issue spotting for the attorney. It's do you have enough liquidity in your estate? Do you have to worry about tax issues? What kinds of tax issues do you have to worry about, depending on the different kinds of assets? And it helps frame and avoid some problems that you can plan long in advance for. You can get all that out in the forefront. So first, have a general idea, a good idea of your financial picture, because that's going to matter for both your estate and for things like long-term care planning. The second one is, this is probably the easiest one really, is just the family breakdown, the family dynamics. You're gonna want to be able to talk about what is your family situation. Are you married? Are you not married? Do you have children? Are there any issues in the family, both in terms of someone not getting along? Are there disabilities? Is there some reason why a person is distant? They don't speak the same language as everyone else in the family. Just the general family dynamics. That helps figure out who is involved in the process, helps figure out where things need to go in terms of assets, who can fulfill those roles, and gives the picture of what you want to accomplish to benefit your friends and your family. The third is probably, frankly, maybe the easiest one for people to anticipate is beneficiaries. If it's an estate planning conversation or even a long-term care planning conversation, you're talking about preserving assets, having a legacy you want to pass to someone. And so identifying who that is something that's generally you'd want to walk into the meeting knowing, here's who my beneficiaries are, who's where I want to get it to. Because that has its own issues. It could be, I want to give it all to my daughter who also happens to have severe disabilities, and then there's a question about how the best way to do that is. Or it's, I want to leave it to my spouse, or I want to leave it to my kids, but I'm not really sure that they can handle the amount of money that I want to leave to them. And there's a solution for that. So that brings up all of the issues you need to talk about to figure out who the beneficiaries are and the best way to get it to them. And then finally, it is what I'll call the fiduciaries. It's the people who you would put in charge of any role in your estate plan. That could be the executor, for example. That's the person in charge of a will. It could be a trustee who's in charge of a trust. It could be an agent who's designated under a power of attorney for your lifetime decision making, or under medical power of attorney, all those kind of roles. And that'll be who you can trust. And I'm not going to talk too much about that today because I'm already expecting that probably next week I'll talk about who those people are, what they do, and how to pick them. But generally, you want to come in knowing, okay, I know my spouse can handle this responsibility. My my friend can handle this responsibility. My child can't really handle this, so they shouldn't be named, or I know this person can't do it. That kind of a concept. So those are the 4 things generally you want to think about. You want to go in knowing generally what the financial picture is, the family dynamics, who the beneficiaries are, and who you can put in charge of all those roles. And I'll always stress to people, you don't need to come in having done months worth of homework on these things. You just need to be able to talk about them. Because here's probably what will always happen, and I'll use our firm as the example for this. The process, when you think, okay, it's time to either review or start the estate planning process, is you would contact a lawyer. So you would call our office or get a hold of us through Facebook or our website, etc. And you would have a consultation, free consultation set up with an attorney. And most firms do this now. We certainly do. We'll send out a questionnaire in advance for a list of reasons. One, it puts all of those 4 items I just described are broken down in that questionnaire, and it highlights other issues. What is important to you? What brings you in the door today? What kinds of things are you worried about and concerned about in your estate plan? Because then when we have the meeting, we're not going through, and I used to have to do it this way, so what's this account, what's this account, what's this account, what's this account, what's the address of all these people? We're just reviewing it all and then talking about specifically what do you care about and how do we make it a reality. So the process then becomes, we have an hour or so conversation about that, figure out a plan that fits, and then if everyone agrees, that's the plan we put together and can execute shortly thereafter. So beyond that, it's a little bit hard to say because it depends on the plan and all that sort of thing, but really it's a fairly low impact conversation in the beginning. It's more about coming in, having the conversation and coming in the door first, thinking about those 4 items, the finances, the family, the beneficiaries, and the fiduciaries, the people in charge, and then being able to talk about what you want in your plan and to best protect your legacy. So hopefully that all makes sense. Like I said, it's usually it's about getting started, and then it becomes a lot less scary once you're already there. And hopefully that's something, if you're interested in doing, like I said, you can call our firm, you can go to our website, GallagherManning.com. Sometimes people just want information before they come in. You can certainly see that on our Facebook page, our website. We now have a YouTube channel. If you search for Gallagher and Manning, you'll see certainly my talks and other talks. And you can come in very prepared to have that good conversation. So I think that's everything for today. I do want to say thank you. I think next week what I'll do is I'll do the follow-up to this. Like I said, I'll talk about the fiduciaries, the people you put in charge, and how to decide who makes good sense for those roles. So thank you all very much, and I look forward to talking to you next Thursday.